Hi, in this episode we have Simon Ford returning to the show.
Hi, Steve.
Hey, Simon. So we continually get these questions from our viewers, from clients also, about listings, and they seem to think there's some kind of magical sauce in it about how we list a property and get it sold so fast. So when someone calls you to talk about selling their home, what are some of the things they can expect from you?
Well, as you know, Steve, I mean, almost every situation is different. There's the first thing I want to know from my clients is, why are you moving? Because there's all kinds of reasons. People move for health. They could be upsizing. They could be downsizing. The kids are moving back into the house, that type of thing. So you really have to kind of figure out why in the first place are you guys moving? And then that kind of dictates how you sell the house. Not everybody wants something really quickly. Some people are looking, they want to talk to somebody so they know, hey, what do I need to do to my house to make sure that it is going to sell when the time comes? And so it is really a Q&A session. You sit down and you go, what are your goals? What do you anticipate is your end result? And most people will sit with you a good hour and a half and tell you exactly what's going on. And from that, you can kind of decide, okay, we put together a plan and here's some of those next steps.
And that helps explain, or at least gives them an idea of expectation and what to expect.
Right, calendars. Yeah, the expectations, some people expect that, you just take a few photos, you put it on the MLS and they come. Well, there's a lot of considerations all the way along the way. One of the things that you might consider even before putting your house on market is maybe get an inspection done. And there's reasons for that. Once you're under contract, somebody's going to have an inspection done. The buyer's going to have an inspection done on the house. So if you can take care of some of those things that might come up on that inspection beforehand, you're ahead of the game. You're not going to fall out of contract, and it's going to keep the process going, which is really, really critical, because if you fall out, you have to start all over again.
That's right. And one of the things that I remind people of, particularly home sellers, is that not all agents are the same. Everyone has a different marketing plan. You specifically have been very successful in selling listings, and I think part of that is your pricing strategy and how you're able to determine market value. Tell us a little bit about your process.
Absolutely. One of the things that it's critical, and pricing is about the most important thing you can do in your sales strategy. If you price too high, you can expect that your house is going to be on the market longer. I had a situation not too long ago where a client came to me. They said, I want to sell my house. How much is it worth? And so as agents, we have tools for creating a CMA, or a comparative market analysis. So you can find out what the price per square foot is going to be and how you can price your house so that it's going to sell quickly. So if you go over that, a lot of people think that you price high because somebody's going to come in with a low ball price. What I found almost every single time in pricing homes is if you price at market value, you're going to sell your home quickly and you're going to sell it for the most that you can. Sometimes, if you price it properly, you're going to have multiple bids on your home.
Absolutely. I think history has shown us that people that tend to overprice their house, and eventually over time they lower the price, but then the market looks at, hey, this house has been on the market for a long time, and now they're not getting a market value offer, they're getting a below market value offer.
Right, because it's stigmatized, because it seems like there might be something wrong with the property right up front. And that is paramount in the strategy is. And a good real estate agent will suggest the right price. A seller will normally want to start higher.
Right.
It's up to us to kind of explain exactly why putting it at the right price is going to sell it expeditiously. You're going to get your price. And like I said, recently especially with the demand so high, you can actually expect 2 or 3 offers, if it's priced right, even above the market value.
That's the old saying, an intelligent seller meets, an intelligent informed seller meets an informed buyer, then you'll get a good market value for that property. One of the other questions we get a lot is timing. You know, here I'm thinking about selling my house. You know, do I want to do it, you know, in the winter, in the fall? I mean, what's the best timing as far as present a property to the market?
Well, of course, you want to kind of find out where your seller is at, what their timing is. There are better times of year to sell a home. When it comes into the summertime, most people are in the buying mode. Their kids are out of school, they're more flexible, and they want to move before their kids get back into school. June and July seem to be the highest return. So 97% of your list price you can expect in that June, July kind of window there. But the market as it stands right now, if you're, like I said, if you're priced correctly, you can expect to get a full price offer if your house is ready to sell, meaning you've taken the steps to make sure that it's clean, presentable, possibly even staged, and you've put the right number on it, and you've marketed it properly. So
let's say that you're working with a potential seller. Now they told you they want to pull the trigger and get the property sold. You're having an appointment with them. What would you expect of that home seller to do, and what would they expect from you?
Well, we would sit down. We'd discuss, again, timelines. I can provide them with information on what's going to help show the house properly. A staging guide, we usually provide a staging guide. I want from the seller, hey, what have you done in the last few years to make the value of this house higher? What have you replaced the roof? Have you done a new HVAC system on here? What kind of landscaping have you put in here? What makes your house stand out against the rest? Right. So that's what I want from my sellers, and I want to know what their expectations are. Do they want to be out of here in 6 weeks? Do they want to be out of here in 4 months? It's a completely different strategy. It's different timing. And if they have the additional time, maybe we can put some well-placed money in some places to make the house that more desirable.
And so kind of to wrap it up a little bit, what are some of the marketing things that you do? I know you're on social media. I know you do the high quality pictures and videos. What are some of the things?
Absolutely. Well, you know, I think the pictures are a big part of it. So good quality pictures to start with, and a good write-up. You want some emotion in the write-up. You just can't say, you know, two car garage, 2 bedrooms, 2 bath, for 1,600 square feet, and expect them to come running. Right. You want to kind of evoke some emotion. You want people to kind of get a feel for what it's like to actually live in that house. So some good writing, some good pictures, and then of course the marketing itself. You know, depending on what kind of a property you're selling, sometimes we do direct mail. So when I put a listing out in a certain market, I will do direct mail to all the neighbors. That seems to be effective because you never know when somebody's looking to bring their mother, brother, son closer to them. So I do that. I also press really hard on social media. Obviously, we put on Zillow, Trulia, the MLS, those, but we also put on just about every home selling website out there. Then I do boosts through the social media so that if somebody's just scrolling or looking for homes, it pops up on the little side view in your Facebook page. And you know, we do just about everything we possibly can to make sure that you get the most amount of exposure on your listing. And
kind of the final question, at what point should a home seller, someone's thinking about selling a home, when should they contact an agent like you to get the process rolling? How much lead time, say, from the first phone call to the property being on the market?
Well, you know what I find is sometimes people aren't necessarily ready. They just want to kind of know what their home is worth. The sooner the better, as far as I'm concerned, because as soon as you have even the thought about it, you're going to want to know how much your home is going to sell for. So doing the CMA is that upfront process. But if your home needs a little work, say, before you put it on market, the sooner the better. I can help you in facilitating and getting carpenters, plumbers, those types of people together so that we can get your home ready for market. So the sooner the better, so that we can define the process and define the goals.
So you help them with the whole thing?
Across the board.
Excellent.
Yep.
All right. Well, thanks, Simon.
Right.
I know our viewers will be happy that you're able to answer those questions.
Oh, thank you, Steve. Appreciate the time.
Thank you. Hi, today we have Tina Kobos, and Tina, we get a lot of questions from not only our viewers but also our clients. They want to learn a little bit more about some of our agents, and today we want to spotlight you as one of our realtors in our Prescott sales office.
Thank you.
Thank you. So Tina, tell us a little bit about how you got to Prescott and why you got into real estate.
Well, I got into Prescott, actually rock climbing at Granite Mountain. That's how I was introduced to it. So,
Wow.
Yeah, so there's a lot of history there. And I think that it's just a perfect place for me to live. And I enjoyed it so much. During the downturn, I moved here and I was seeing so much real estate, unfortunately, foreclosures, and I got really motivated and curious about houses and the transactions, and I was encouraged by my husband to get my license, and he thought I'd be perfect for it, and I think he was right. So,
Well, I think he was right too, because you're very good at it.
Thank you.
And-
I enjoy it very much. It's unfortunately I found my niche late,
Oh, okay.
but it's a great niche.
Yeah.
So I just wish I would have found it a little earlier. Wouldn't that have been fun? Anyhow, I have been in real estate for about 3.5 years now, and I have had several transactions, and I do specialize in listings.
Okay.
And I think my clients enjoy me as to not only to work with, but also I do extensive research. So I go to the county and I do my homework, and I go to the city and I do my homework. Prescott is a unique place to buy a house or sell a house because it's the old capital. So a lot of the homes are older, a lot of them are on the historical register, so over time you get a lot of zoning changes or you get a lot of setback changes. So those are the details that my clients really appreciate me finding out for their home.
And it's nice to know the history of the property that you're buying
Exactly.
also.
Yep.
And so what's really unique about you versus some of the other agents in the community?
Besides the extensive research that I do for my clients, I think there's also, I connect with them on a personal level, and I really enjoy that. And a lot of times we become good friends.
Oh, very good.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Tina. I
Thank you.
appreciate talking with you
Thank
today.
you. It's nice, Steve.
Hello, my name's Ken Nimmo with Arizona Prime Real Estate. I'm sitting with Kyle from JT Septic, and he's going to go over a little bit about, in the state of Arizona, the septic system needs to be certified before it can transfer ownership. So Kyle, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, so we'll go out for a home sale or just a transfer of ownership and inspect the system. And that process involves us opening the tank up, and if we can't see the bottom and sidewalls of the tank because of accumulation in the tank, we have to remove all the contents from the tank. Then we'll inspect the integrity of the tank, inspect the integrity of the pipes coming in and out of the tank, and water test the disposal to make sure it's how the condition it's working.
And so when we do that, most of the time, do you have to pump the tank before you to certify it?
Yes, it's probably 98% of the time I have to pump the contents out of the tank.
And so for the homeowners to transfer ownership, they need to have that certification.
Yes, and it's more of a disclosure document from our end. We're telling the seller and the buyer, all the interested parties, what they're selling and what they're buying and the condition that it is in at that moment.
Okay. I know a lot of people, especially when they come from areas that don't have septic systems, they always say, why do I have to have it pumped to get it certified and so forth? And in the contract today, it's in the contract. It's a seller responsibility.
And that's what we've been, most of the time we deal with is the sellers calling in, the listing agents calling in, and we're going out and disclosing to them our findings and through the ADEQ inspection report.
Now, how long does it take usually for when you go out to the job site, inspect it, turn your report in? What kind of turnaround time are we usually looking at?
If everything's running smoothly, we can be on site and off site within an hour to 2 hours, and then have the report out by the end of the day. If not by the end of the day, we just have the report out by the next day.
That's fantastic. There's a lot of septic systems out there in this area, and they do need to be certified when you transfer real estate. This is Ken Nimmo for Arizona Prime Real Estate. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Steve Irwin. Today we asked Bob Miller to be on our show, kind of do a lifestyle piece. Bob's a friend of mine. He's been in Prescott for a long time. He's a retired educator. He's a travel guide, a guide person that guides people. But he's also a writer. And so, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Steve.
Yeah.
Well, I know you wanted to ask me why I came to Prescott. But before I ever came to Prescott, in 1949, I went to Cuba when I was only 3 months old. My family has a long history in Cuba. My grandfather actually was a refugee from the Mexican Revolution and went to Cuba in 1914. For those of you not familiar with the Mexican Revolution, it was in 1910. He had gone there to do some construction. He was a contractor. He couldn't put up with the revolution. He saw more opportunities in Cuba, so he went there. Well, his first commission was the National Theater, which had been built in the 1880s. And his commission was to build a shell around the theater to keep the acoustics that were originally there and really improve it. Then he really got some commissions. He built the National Capitol in Havana, which was next door to the National Theater, and it's modeled on the Capitol in DC. Then he built the Trans-Island Highway. He built the Federal Penitentiary in the Isle of Pines on the, it's that little island that looks like a comma on the southwest corner of Cuba. And he married my grandmother, who was an emigre from the Canary Islands. Wow. So anyway, my mom had me when she was 27. She married an American by the name of Howard Miller. Howard was the founding CFO of AIG. He had also been in charge of Standard Oil's productions in Bolivia, Argentina, Paraguay, and Uruguay. He went there, learned Spanish, and he happened to hook up with Aristotle Onassis, and they became good friends. They were roommates. And later on, they both applied for jobs at Standard Oil. Well, my dad got it because his Spanish was better than Onassis's. And later on, Onassis would not rent any of his tankers to Standard Oil. So they sent my dad to negotiate with him, and my dad calmed the waters, and Onassis was able to rent the
Because
tankers.
that's how the pipelines got started.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Now that all makes sense.
2 years ago, I decided to take a group as an educator under the education category to Cuba to ride the highway that my grandfather built from one end of the island to the other. And we did that. We had a Taiwanese who happened to be my college roommate. We had an Englishman who was the guy who actually got me into outdoor sports, mountaineering, kayaking, rock climbing. My wife and the Englishman's wife. The Englishman, Roy Smith, is a local resident. Tina was instrumental in buying his first house, actually. The motivation for writing the book, which is Closing the Circle, a memoir of Cuba, exile, the Bay of Pigs, and a trans-island bike journey, was that I'm 68 now, and I'm at the same age when my father died. And I figured, while I'm still hale and hearty, I would write the memoirs. They've gotten good reviews, and I'm really enjoying doing presentations on the book.
It's a great book. I can see it here. And you also wrote The Inside Passage, Kayaking The Inside Passage. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, in 1972, 73, I joined an expedition to climb what was then known as Mount McKinley, today Denali. And I volunteered to take all the equipment for the expedition in my pickup up the Inside Passage on the Alaska Ferry System. So I did. My ulterior motive was to plant the Cuban flag on top of North America's highest peak.
Right.
I was successful on that, but while I was on the ferry, I was looking out at the 1,500 miles of ocean water, and I had done a lot of river kayaking, and I said, it's unimaginable that anyone would kayak this expanse of water. Because, of course, in a river, you've got a nice current.
Right.
That was in 72. So in the 80s, I decided, why not kayak it?
Wow.
So I did a lot of research. Kayaking the Inside Passage is the sea kayaking equivalent of perhaps climbing Mount Everest.
Right.
After all of the research I'd done, my wife Tina said, you should write a guidebook. My first reaction was no.
Yeah.
But then, as we went on, I realized there is no guidebook for kayaking the Inside Passage.
Right.
And so anyway, I wrote this, and it's the first guidebook to the Inside Passage. It's still the only one. A second edition is going to come out next year, which has additional routes. The Inside Passage is very complicated. And by the way, the Inside Passage is the route from approximately Olympia, Washington, to either Skagway or Muir Glacier in Glacier National Park up in Alaska. It took many years to complete everything, gather all the information, and write it up. So back to why I'm in Prescott.
That's right. That's where we started.
Well, of course, having gone to college here, I fell in love with the place. But the thing that's special about Prescott is it has 4 seasons, none of which are extreme. So you have a mild summer, a winter with snow, fall with turning leaves, and spring with beautiful flowers and greenery coming out. So I really enjoy that. But one of the main things about Prescott is it's not a highway town. And it's an old town. It has history, which is very nice. It has physical relief. One of my first climbs was up on Thumb Butte during the big snow of 67, 68. New Year's, I had come up from high school. Someone had invited me. I was underage and I had drunk a little bit too much. And I figured,
It's like a whole nother book.
I don't want to get sick. I better do something. So I got in my car, went to Thumb Butte in the middle of the snowstorm, climbed it at midnight,
Oh my
completely
God.
drunk, not
Yeah.
knowing what I was doing,
Yeah.
and somehow survived.
Yeah. But you had traveled the world. You've done a lot of things. You're obviously an outdoors person, and I think the town probably plays to that a lot.
It does, and in the many things that I've done in my short life, I started out working in the outdoor business as an instructor for Outward Bound up in Colorado,
Oh, okay.
and a few other organizations.
And so here in Prescott, you have the biking, the trailing.
Yes, I've done one of a couple of what in rock climbing are called first ascents. I participated in one of the first ascents on Granite Mountain,
Okay.
one of the main routes that goes up the center of the face, in a supporting role. And of course, there was that first ascent on Thumb Butte. And there was a famous rescue on Thumb Butte back in 1970 or 71, that I was involved in. Made the front page of the Courier, the entire front page, actually.
I did not know that. So kind of to wrap up our time with you today, if someone's interested in either of these two publications, how would they find it, or what do they do?
Well, actually, both are at Peregrine, one of our local bookstores. Closing the Circle is also at the Book Nook, which is at the basement of the St. Michael's. They're both available on Amazon. They're both also available through Barnes & Noble or directly through the publisher. This one is W.W. Norton, one of the largest publishers in the U.S., and this one is Cognitio Press, which is a specialty press.
Well, thank you for coming in today.
Well, you're welcome. I hope I did all right.
I thought you did too.
Okay.